For 18 years, I searched for my biological father. But the truth is, when I started that search, I had almost nothing to go on, just a few small clues from my mom, and at the time, I had no idea if they would ever be enough. After that night, when I found out the man I thought was my father wasn't my biological dad, I started asking my mom questions. I wanted to know who he was, what he looked like, where he lived, but the information she could give me was very limited. She told me that before I was born, she worked as a waitress at a restaurant in the 1980s called The Castle. Apparently, it was a very popular restaurant at the time, especially for its ribs. She told me the chef there was my father. His name was Nico. She said he was Greek. When she tried to tell me his last name, she struggled to pronounce it. So instead, she gave me a few rough versions of how it sounded. She also told me that after I was born, he had opened his own restaurant and there had been a newspaper article written about it. At one point, she had saved that newspaper clipping for me. But there was a problem. When I was about 4 years old, our house burned down and we lost almost everything, including that newspaper clipping. So the one piece of information that might have helped me find him was gone. When my mom finished telling me everything she knew about my father, I remember sitting there realizing how little information I actually had. A first name, a restaurant that existed in years earlier, and the last name that even my mom couldn't pronounce. That was it. And what made it even harder was knowing that at one point, there had been a newspaper article about him opening his own restaurant. My mom had actually saved that article for me, which means I would have been able to see what he looked like. But when our house burned down when I was about 4 years old, that newspaper clipping was destroyed along with almost everything else we owned. I remember thinking, if that article had survived, maybe I would have had a picture of my father. Maybe I would have known his face. Instead, all I had were a few small clues and a lot of unanswered questions. Don't forget to hit subscribe so you can watch the rest of my story.